لو كان سلعة تباع لبذلت فيه الأموال العظام أو صعد في السماء لسمت إليه نفوس الكرام.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome all viewers and listeners to yet another episode of At-Tibyān podcast, which is a project dedicated to helping examine with knowledge contemporary affairs happening in the Muslim communities. Likewise, we discuss topics such as studying in Saudi Arabia, benefiting from some of the most prominent Islamic scholars of today, how to apply to the different universities, juggling marital life along with studies, self-improvement, education, books, and much more. There will be a new weekly episode every Monday at 9 p.m. KSA time, 6 p.m. UK time, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and now, since we have a Swedish brother here with us, it will be 7 p.m. Swedish time. Hayyak Allah, Khair. We're very happy to have a very special guest with us today, Sheikh Abdullah As-Sueidi, who is a graduate from the Jamia Islamiyya in Madinah, and he completed his BA, likewise his Magister there, and then went on to finish his Ph.D. in Atheism. And now he's also a teacher in Masjid An-Nabawi. So we're very welcomed and honored to have you here with us today. Hayyak Allah.
Assalamu alaikum wa
rahmatullah. How you doing, bro? How you feeling?
Alhamdulillah, fine.
Alhamdulillah. How you liking Riyadh?
Alhamdulillah. Nice.
Alhamdulillah. So I know you're pressed on time, so you kind of want to jump right into it today and discuss a little bit of your background because I mean there's really a lot of questions I have for you, like from every angle. But let's just keep it short in the background and then go into some of the questions about your studies because it's very, very prominent today in the Muslim community, especially with atheism and things like that. So can you give us, the viewers, a little bit of background, of your life previous to studying in Jamia Islamiyya and then, accepting Islam, etc., and then coming here?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim wa salatu wa salam ala ashraf al-anbiya wal mursaleen nabiyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in amma ba'd. Hayyakum Allah, it's very nice to be here. Jazakallah Khair.
Ahlan wa sahlan.
Fikum, hayyakum Allah. I'm from Sweden, a country in north of Europe. I became a Muslim when I was about 16, 17 years old. I was in high school, second year in high school. I came from a secular family, no religion at all, almost in my family. But I was interested in reading a lot. Both my parents are doctors, so they used to travel with me into different countries and so on. And Sweden is a quite unusual country that is one of the most individualistic countries in the world, at the same time one of the most secular countries in the world. But Swedes, they think that they are the standard and other people should be like them. So when we grow up, it was like, this is how things should be. And then when I was traveling with my family and so on, my parents and my brother and my sister, to other countries, and we saw like other countries, other cultures, how people living and so on, it got me interested in reading more about other cultures, other religions, how people live in different countries and so on. So I started to read about religions. Especially I went to India 2 times. And I think that was like, it's the total opposite of Sweden. Wow. You have religions all over the place. It's in your face when you go around. So I started to read about different religions, Christianity, of course, because Sweden is it's originally a Christian country. Reading about Judaism and Hinduism, Sikhism, and all these religions. And then I started to read about Islam too. And the more I learned about Islam, the more I saw like, okay, this is more interesting than the other religions. So I started to read more and more books about Islam. And then, subhanAllah, I got a copy of a translation of the Quran. And then I used to read Surah Al-Fatiha. Surah Al-Fatiha, Ihdina as-Sirat al-Mustaqim, guide us to the straight path. And I saw like the different religions and different ways of life and so on. And I felt like, okay, this is a way to ask God for guidance to the straight path. And then, subhanAllah, I felt like, okay, I have to go on this path. This is the right path in my life and so on.
Were you in India when you realized, you had this realization that this
No, it was like in India, it was that I really saw that there are so many different things, so many different religions, different ways of life, and so on. So when I went back, I started to read books.
Back in Sweden?
Yeah, back in Sweden. So I was not like really interested in Islam when I was in India. It was more like about religions and ways of life and so on. And then when I came back, I started to read. And then when I read books, I thought Islam was the most interesting religion.
So when you say you used to read Surah Al-Fatiha, do you mean like you see
in
it regularly?
Sweden, yeah. No. I used to sit down and contemplate, and I used to sit with Fatiha and guide me to the straight path.
Use it as a dua, like
as a form of dua.
Now, did you know any Muslims there in Sweden, like that can help you after you realized that I want to be Muslim?
I had some Muslim friends, but none of them were practicing.
Okay.
Yeah. And I had some pretty interesting stories. I had one friend that was a bit practicing. He was a Shi'i from Iran. So I asked him to go to the big mosque in Stockholm. It's a Sunni mosque, but to teach me how to pray. Because he was the only one I knew that knew how to pray from the Muslims. So he took me to pray, and he taught me how to pray in a Shia way, and took me to the place of wudu, how to make wudu and so on. And I was right next to a brother who was a Sunni in the mosque. So he said, no, he's teaching you in the wrong way and so on. I was not a Muslim, you know. So I said, what? He said, yeah, you have to learn about Islam. I said, okay.
What do you think I'm doing here?
No. So he said, like, it's going to be a lecture today. Come to the lecture with me. So I said, okay, I'll go to the lecture. And I was really ashamed to say to him that I was not a Muslim. So I was going with him and went into the mosque. And subhanAllah, when I went to the mosque, he said, pray rak'atayn. I was like, pray rak'atayn? So I was standing right next to him and like doing all the movements and so on. And then it was a lecture. And mashallah, the mosque, all of the brothers were like wearing thobe, and some had turbans and so on. I would come like 16-year-old Swede coming seeing 1 year after 9/11, 2002.
Subhanallah.
So the brother who gave the lecture, he's a like strong Palestinian brother with a big beard and so on. So he started to speak to me. He said like, Ramadan is coming, you have to fast and so on. I was saying, okay, no problem, whatever you say. And the funny thing is that he said to me, many years after, he said, when I saw your face, I said, this guy will never enter the mosque one more time. Like, I have to say, like, my face was pretty frightened or something. I don't know.
Okay. Like we were overwhelmed. There was like a lot going on.
Yeah. It's like, whoa, what is this? Like,
yeah.
And Span, the same mosque, when I come there in the summer, I used to give khutbah in the mosque. So he was like, he will not come back. But alhamdulillah.
That actually shows the importance of how we need some type of program for new Muslims. Like you're taking me back to my time when I first became Muslim. It's like overwhelming. Yeah. You come in, I had like a Jesus piece on. I'm sitting in the back, and I'm just, Jesus piece is like a necklace. Yeah. I'm sitting in the back of the masjid. I'm just looking around. I'm just like, what's going on? Guys like pay attention to the khutbah. And I'm just like trying to see what's going on. I'm not Muslim at the time. Like you, I didn't want to say, you know what, I didn't know what to do and things like that. So yeah, subhanallah. So after this experience, you came back to the masjid after that for?
I went back to the house, like reflecting upon all of these things. I knew that if I would become Muslim, it would be problems with my family, and I was the only Muslim in my class. There was no Muslims like practicing Muslim around me and so on. And then in the end I said, no, if I believe in this, I have to take the step.
How long did it take for you to?
I don't really know, because he was speaking about with me about Ramadan, so I think it was pretty close to Ramadan.
Okay.
Probably. So, and I converted in Ramadan. So
okay. So shortly after that first encounter, you ended up becoming Muslim. MashaAllah, tabarakallah.
Yeah, alhamdulillah.
Jamil, so after that, you become Muslim now. When does it, I guess you're 16, so you came to study when, 18? Or
I finished high school when I was 18, and straight after that I applied for Medina, to study in Medina. And subhanallah, all of the brothers, they told me like, oh, you're originally Swede, you have good grades in school, you're going to get accepted straight away and so on. So I was like, okay, I'm going to get accepted. That year, no one got accepted from Sweden.
Wow.
No acceptance.
Wow.
So I was shocked. It was like everybody said there's not so many people applying for Sweden, and you're from Sweden originally.
You was waiting for that acceptance.
Yeah, I was just waiting. And subhanAllah, this is something that Allah can teach us lessons that we have to rely on Him and not on asbab, on things that... and that we all have to make dua. Nothing can be sure unless we make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I was like, I got to know that no one would be accepted this year. And I wanted to leave Sweden because it was quite hard to stay with my family and problems and so on. So I was like, okay, I have to leave in any way. So I knew one brother. He was studying in the Maj. So he said, come in Yemen. So he said, come to Yemen and study over there. So I said, okay, khalas, I will go to Yemen. And then it was in 2004, the first war with the Houthis started at that time.
Subhanallah.
Yeah, so I couldn't go at that time straight away. So I got to know someone. SubhanAllah, when you're young, you do things that are really strange.
Of course, yeah.
I got to know a brother, Algerian brother, living in Abu Dhabi through Messenger. You know, it was like before Facebook and all these things.
Don't tell me this guy smuggled you in.
No. So he said like until things will calm down over there in Yemen, come to the Emirates. You can stay at my house. So I didn't know him except through Messenger. I was like, okay, I go from Sweden. I leave Sweden. Yeah. So I went from there, SubhanAllah, and I stayed there for 2 months.
Allahu Akbar.
Yeah.
When you say when you're young, you do crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Same thing happened to me as well. I remember I went the Maj as well.
Okay, mashallah.
We couldn't get through the normal way. So one of the brothers like take a taxi from place to place. And then eventually you'll end up at the Maj, right? So we did that as me and another brother. What happened is when we went actually through Houth itself. And this is like in 2006, I think.
Been there, done that. I was there too. Yeah, I was in Houth too.
So we went through there, 2 guys, 2 youth. They took us on the bus. And halfway through, they pulled out their guns, give us all your money.
Wow.
Gave us all the money. At least they took us to a bus, alhamdulillah. They're like, okay, take this bus, it will take you to the Maj. We went on that bus. When we got to the check station, the police station, the guys like, they took us off the bus and whatever. Spent the night in prison as well, the Yemeni prison. But we came out that morning.
That's not a 5-star hotel, I think.
No, because the guy, he said to us, he said, spend the night in the hotel. Because there's no buses going out to Saudi. It's at the police station. So we'd have no money. It's like, all right, stay in the prison. We're like, all right, we'll take you out.
So you were voluntarily arrested.
Yeah, voluntarily spend the night in prison.
Subhanallah.
That was some experience. Just when I think I was 16 or 17 as well, around that age.
Wow.
When you're young, you do crazy stuff. Just remind you of those things.
So you were in Abu Dhabi for 2 months.
Yeah.
Then after that, you get to Yemen from Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
Then how long is it before you get accepted to Jamia?
I was in Yemen for 7 months.
Mashallah.
And also going there to the Maj, I went in had like a minibus that transported, because especially going there as a tall white Swede, it was not allowed to go over there. So they had to hide me. So I went in a minibus with they had like the thing where they transport the books.
Yeah.
So I was under that for 7 hours.
Allahu Akbar.
Hiding, and there was like checkpoints and all these things.
They took us off the bus as well. I think we looked too Western. Me and the other brother. That's why when we took taxis all over the place.
Ajib. So 7 hours.
Yeah, 7 hours hiding under and they all stopped and they go. I saw like the flashlight going.
Checking.
Checking.
You were by yourself?
There were guys in the front.
No, I'm saying like you were the only one being smuggled in.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So
you going to Saudi Arabia was ni'mah, mashallah. It was airplane.
Yeah. Allahu Akbar. Now,
you said you went through Houth as well?
On the way back. And I didn't know so much in that time, I heard Houth, and when I stayed, it was just for a short while to get a new cab. And I saw like people wearing guns all over the place. And then I spoke to her brother when I came back. He said, if they would have found you there, you have a nice Westerner.
Subhanallah. So how did you get because I'm sure like in Yemen, like there was probably no way to get internet connection, things like that. How'd you know you got accepted? How'd you find out?
That's pretty interesting. When I was in Yemen, they had internet cafe at that time. So when there was no internet on the phone and so on. So one time a week, I went to the internet cafe to get news. So one time a week, I was like updated what's happening in the world.
Then you go back into
last week, and I go back to studies. So I got a call. No, it was one brother was there. He got a call from someone that said that I was accepted. So I was like shocked. I said, okay, I have to go. So,
Mashallah, tabarakallah. And this is 2005.
That's 2005 in the summer, and then I went to Medina after that.
Mashallah, tabarakallah. Jameed, so you were there for 7 months. Now, going to Medina, Like, you go back to Sweden, you're packing your bags, you're like, okay, class, I'm accepted.
Yeah.
How was your family feeling about now? You came back from Yemen, Abu Dhabi, from some random messenger guy. Now you're going. Now you're going to Medina.
That was not so good, but it's Saudi Arabia is more developed than Yemen.
Yeah.
It's better in one way. But they said, can't you go back to Abu Dhabi? Like Emirates.
MashaAllah. Jameel, so once you get there, Mahad, you didn't study in the Mahad because you were studying in Yemen,
I was supposed to study in the Mahad. All of the brothers said you should go to the Mahad and so on. And I went to interview with the Sheikh from Kulat Sharia. He said, no, you shouldn't go to Mahad, Arabic, khalas. So I said, okay, well, should I go? I was prepared to go to the Mahad. I didn't think about any kulliyah and anything. So he said, come to Kulat Sharia with me. So I was like, okay, bismillah.
Just like that.
Yeah, the next day I was in Kulat Sharia.
Did you find it difficult jumping right into kulliyah?
Yeah, in the beginning it was quite difficult. I remember especially started to study Rawdat al-Nadir in Usul al-Fiqh, and that's like 2 volumes. And Usul al-Fiqh, it's like new terminology and all these things. So I was like, whoa, this is quite hard. Yeah. But alhamdulillah, it was the first semester, and then the second semester, alhamdulillah.
Got used to it.
So would you say that 7 months at the Maj is equivalent to 2 years in the Mahad?
Come on.
Yeah, I mean, mashallah. I mean, your language, you said you spent 7 months in Yemen, sir?
Yeah.
And did you pick up that language that allowed you to jump Ma'ad over the course of those 7 months?
2 months in Abu Dhabi before that. And like when I was in Abu Dhabi, that was quite interesting too, because I was living with 2 Algerian brothers there, and they didn't know English, just a few words in English. So when he wrote to me in Messenger, it was just a few words and so on. So I had to speak Arabic. And he was working in a Maktaba Islamiyya over there. So I used to go to the Maktaba to work with him. And sometimes he was going out for like doing things. And I was left in the Maktaba. So people came in and started to ask me about books and so on. I was standing there. Wow. So I was forced to start to speak Arabic when I went to Abu Dhabi. Quickly.
And I think that's the best way. When you're in uncomfortable situations where you get forced to.
100%. Throwing you in the deep water. You just get forced to swim. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. Jameel. So Sharia, tell us about that. How was it? I mean, jumping into that. Were they studying Bidayat al-Mujtahid at that time?
Yeah, it was Bidayat al-Mujtahid.
I'm sure that had to have been very interesting.
We had a scholar that taught us, Sheikh Abdullah As-Sueidi, is teaching now in the Masjid An-Nabawi. He's, mashallah, got a lot of knowledge when it comes to fiqh. He was our first teacher, the first semester in fiqh. So I remember the first day he got in and like mentioned 5 aqwal and something, and you have this opinion and this opinion, and then the Hanafis, they have 2 opinions. I was sitting there and was like, oh Sheikh, what's the qawl al-rajih? He said, no, you're in the university now. Antum mujtahidun. Like, you have to make tarjih. I was like, what?
Subhanallah.
Yeah, so Bidayat al-Mujtahid, not all of the teacher was like that, but he was, mashallah. He was.
So for the viewers, can you give them maybe give us an intro or understanding of that book? I mean, we understand it, but so why would this book be considered so difficult for a new student?
Yeah. This book is an old book written by Ibn Rushd, rahimahullah, about fiqh al-muqaran, all of the madhahib.
Comparison
fiqh between the madhahib. And usually when you start to study fiqh, you study one madhab at the time. But Jamia said, no, now you have reached Jamia level. You've reached Jamia level, you study madhahib when you're in high school, and so on. Before that. But now in university, and also they used to say that we accept students from all around the world. They have different madhahib. So if we say that everyone coming here should study madhab al-Hanbali, and most of the students that come from outside of Saudi Arabia, they are Malikis or Shafi'is and Hanafis, then that's not good. And even I think some countries, they don't like that. Their students are coming there and studying just the Hanbali madhab, and they see like, okay, they live in the madhab of the country and so on. So what the Jamia did is that they taught like this book written by a Maliki scholar that in fiqh al-muqaran, comparative fiqh, And so students could learn about the different madahib.
Get like the middle path to all of the students.
Yeah.
Jamil, so how do you feel now about the Jamia recently? They changed it the last few years.
Yeah, and I heard they're going to change it back.
Really? To fiqh al-Maqaran?
Yeah.
Okay. Mumtaz, Tayyib, so going into, now you finished the kulliyah, you're going into your master's. Was it in Sharia as well? It was in Aqeedah, right?
Yeah.
Mumtaz, tell us about that, like your topic, and mashallah, you gave me a copy, Jazakallah Khair, of your risala. Tell us about this risala and the importance of it.
Yeah. My risala is about a person, his name is Muhammad Asad. He was an Austrian Jew, his name Leopold Weiss, and then he became a Muslim and took the name Muhammad Asad when he was 26 years old. He lived here in Saudi Arabia in the late 20s, early 30s, like when Malik Abdul-Aziz rahimahullah established
1920s.
Yeah, 1926 to 1932, I think, something like that. He was living in Saudi Arabia, and he actually got to know Malik Abdul-Aziz, King Abdul-Aziz, those days. Yeah, because he was an Austrian journalist, and King Abdul-Aziz was establishing the state here. So he took him like as an advisor about issues, how to deal with Westerners and different things. So he got to know the royal family here and some of the scholars here and so on. And then he went to Pakistan. After that, he had some issues here. It's quite unsure why he went there, and then he got affected of the whole rationalistic school of thought.
Okay.
So you can see Neo-Mu'tazilis, Muhammad Abdu and these rationalistic Aqlaniyin.
So what made you pick that topic?
He has a translation of the Quran to English, and this translation, or the commentaries of this translation, is translated to Swedish.
Okay.
So this is the main translation that we have in Swedish.
Okay.
And when I first converted, it was like the first day, I think. They said to me, we have this translation of the Quran, but there are many mistakes in it. And we don't really have a good translation of the Quran in Swedish. So this is one of the first things that I heard when I converted to Islam.
SubhanAllah. So that stuck with you.
Yeah. And then I was like, I always heard that it's a good translation when it comes to the Swedish language, because the guy that translated it, or the person that translated it from English to Swedish, he was a Swedish ambassador that converted to Islam in Morocco.
Okay.
So he was like, had a high level of Swedish language and so on. So the language in the book is good, but they have a lot of Aqeedah mistakes in it. Okay. So I was like, okay, I want to make a study of the translation, the original translation by Muhammad Asad,
which was in English.
Yeah. And it was really nice because I had the chance to go through the tafsir of the Quran from the beginning to the end. I had to read the translation, have to go through Imam al-Tabari, Ibn Kathir, and so on, the big scholars of tafsir, and also what the Sahaba said about the verses that he interpreted in a rationalistic way. So it was very, very nice to be close to the Quran all of the time. So it was a great opportunity, close to the Quran and study Aqeedah at the same time.
Mumtaz. Did you ever look at the Swedish translation to see if they were actually the same, or was it the translation?
Sometimes even the translated to Swedish, he made some commentaries where he thought that Muhammad Asad went too far.
Made a mistake.
Yeah, made a mistake. Usually he agreed with him. Okay. But maybe like 10-15 times he said like, no, this is a bit too far. Like,
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's quite good also to see, because sometimes, many times people that spread innovations, they use ambiguity when they're speaking. They speak, it's quite hard to understand what does he really want to say here.
Yeah.
So it was good to go back to the Swedish translation sometimes to see how he understood what he tried to say.
Okay.
Yeah. So that benefited me too.
I think generally speaking, I think it's very beneficial when someone comes from the West and studies here in Saudi Arabia and then does his master's or his PhD related to something back in his country, so that he benefits 100%. His community, as opposed to doing the same thing that everyone else is doing.
Yeah. I mean, even the teachers, they say the same thing. Like they want you to do something that's going to be jadid to you in your community. Something new that you guys can put forth. Or they want you to do something that's going to give you ta'sil. In that knowledge, like a firm basis in that which you already study. That's why you see a lot of people go like the juhud of so and so, like the hard the efforts of so and so, because you get to go through all his books of tawheed and aqeedah, and it gives you that firm grasp.
Inshallah, I'm looking to do something like that as well, inshallah. So we'll have to speak after that, inshallah.
Can you do that in tafsir though?
Yeah.
Okay.
In my qism, the Jami'ah, same thing again. If you do something in English or whatever, they'll accept it straight away, mashallah. It's much easier for us. And with my murshid now, I'm actually talking with him regarding something similar to this, inshallah.
But this is like an aqeedah twist though.
Yeah, this one has an aqeedah twist. But in tafsir, obviously, this is very close to tafsir. If I did the same topic today, it would have been accepted as well.
Oh, really?
Okay. Yeah, of course. Because I'm studying a book of tafsir. But one important point, Akhi, and I think you must have come across that when you were doing this, or just generally speaking, something that most people don't know, which is that every person that does a translation of the Quran, he's actually making tafsir of the Quran. I think most people don't realize that. They think this person is just a translator. No, when it comes to the Quran, he is translating what he understood. So it's kind of like he's a mufassir. So he has to fulfill the shurut of a mufassir, and that's where most of the translators of the Quran, they go wrong. They know Arabic and they know English, and then they think they can translate the Quran. La, you have to fulfill all of the conditions of a scholar of tafsir.
Sahih.
Be a person that can do tafsir, or what you can do is you can translate the books of tafsir. That's a different story. If you want to translate the Quran directly, then.
And the most important thing that I got right, Aqeedah, because if he will go back and translate Ar-Rahman al-Arsh istawa, how will he translate istawa? If he will go back to the books of language, especially if the person who wrote the book of language is Ash'ari or Mu'tazili or anything like that, he might translate the verse in accordance to so the most important thing is that he got right aqeedah. So you can understand how the scholars and how the Salaf translated these verses, or how they interpret.
Now, what was one of the most standout thing that you seen in his translation? Like, what was something that you was like, wow, I can't believe he gave this tafsir to this like this? Is there anything that stood out in your research?
The thing with the translation, that he gave out the first ajza of the translation in the 60s. So when Sheikh Muhammad Ibrahim rahimahullah heard about it, he said that they have to burn it.
Wow.
Yeah. Because it's so and Lajat al-Daima said وفيها كفريات واضحة.
Yeah. So you mentioned that your muqaddimah.
Translate that.
I don't say burn it or you have to get rid of it, because you can't publish this book because of so many mistakes, and that was only like 5 ajza or something that he translated in those days. Then he finished it in the 80s. So
without 20-year span,
it took a long time.
Translate that part that you said about
the clear unbelief.
Disbelief.
Disbelief.
So the whole thing was just like completely.
He has mistakes when it comes to Asma wa Sifat, like most of the Mu'tazila and Ash'ari, but he also like makes ta'weel of angels, speaking about us as forces, making ta'weel of their wings. When it comes to prophets, speaking about Musa alayhi salam, speaking about different prophets unsuitable way. Speaking about Yawm al-Akhir, all of the verses when it comes to paradise and hell and so on, it makes
what do you think gave him the go ahead to go and start giving tafsir to the Quran? You know, being new Muslim, right, and just going to Pakistan. What made him go and want to write this translation or tafsir in English?
You can really see that he tries to approach the Western mind in his translation.
So he just
he's trying to, even when it comes to Sharia things and speaking about hudud and these things, punishment in the Quran, he's trying to make it like in a way kind of secularized form of Islam. So it was really clear that he was affected his upbringing. He was originally a Jew that converted to Islam. He came from like his grandfather was a rabbi, and he came from a religious family. But during the after war period between the World War I and World War II in Europe, it was like a lot of secularization and so on. He was affected by Sigmund Freud when it comes to, so even put some psychology theories in the book and so on. So he had all these effects at the same time, and then he met Mustafa Maraghi he was one of the students of Muhammad Abdu, the same school, rationalistic school.
They call it Madrasat al-Aqlaniyya.
Yeah, Madrasat al-Aqlaniyya. And he met him before he became a Muslim. And he thought that was like, okay, this is quite nice. And then he became a Muslim in Saudi Arabia. And then he left and he went like kind of back to the rationalistic.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So these things that he's mentioned, the ta'wil of the angels and likes, all of that is what that madrasa believes in. Like Muhammad and the likes. They do the same thing that Arabic
even went
tafsir.
further than some of the Aqlani. Muhammad Abdu.
SubhanAllah. So what is it now? Is there any Swedish tafsirs that you would recommend that people go back to, or is there something? Because you said at that time when you became Muslim, that was the only thing available. Yeah. Is there anything now?
There's one translation now that's going to come out, inshallah.
Okay, my brother. Mumtaz. Jameen. Tayyib, so after that, you complete your master's, and mashallah, you had Sheikh Saleh Sindi. He was your mushrif.
Yeah, alhamdulillah.
How was that? And he even went on in PhD to be your mushrif.
Yeah, alhamdulillah.
How was that, having him as your mushrif?
Very good, alhamdulillah, because Sheikh Saleh, first of all, mashallah, he got a lot of knowledge and mashallah, very good akhlaq. And he is he really cares when he is a supervisor. So to have him as a supervisor, a lot of students want him as a supervisor because he will really read every single word in your book.
SubhanAllah.
He will not leave anything, and he will make comments on your language and like how you write your bahth and all.
Did you guys meet up frequently? Like
every week. Every week we're sitting down and discussing the bahth and so on. So
Jameen.
So in the beginning, mashallah, his red pen was all over the world. It was like a red paper.
SubhanAllah.
So I think it's one of the major benefits of these sort of rasail that eventually get printed, because they've gone through so much scrutinization of scholars. You can really trust that. You can.
And also this risala after was like you said, I had Sheikh Saleh Sindi as a supervisor, and then I had 3 teachers that made the munaqasha. It's usually 2, because I had 2 supervisors. I had Sheikh Saleh Sindi and Dr. Abdul-Rahim, who wrote the books on Medina,
the Arabic books
on Medina.
Yeah.
So I had to have 3 munaqashin that made munaqasha.
Because of the language as well.
So he's checking also the language, making sure you're translating everything properly. Wow.
So I had 3 munaqashin that made munaqasha, and then after that, Jam'iyyat al-Aqeedah Medina, they printed the book, and if they want to print the book, they have to make tahkeem. The 2 other scholars have to read it too.
So it goes through all very fine type of filter.
Alhamdulillah. So that was good.
And plus, also doing a risala, I think it's the same in Medina, where the munaqasha is like 3 hours, right?
Yeah, I think it was like 2 hours or something like that.
Okay. Jameen. Tayyib, so what made you, after that, you switched a little bit and then you went into atheism for your PhD. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I wanted to write another essay about tafsir. I thought like or translation of the Quran, and then I spoke to Sheikh Saleh Sindi and I asked him. I said like, "What do you think about that?" He said, "You've done that." And at that time, he started a markaz in that's inside of the Jamia. It's under Jami'at al-Aqeedah. The Jami'at al-Aqeedah, just to explain, in all of Saudi Arabia, they have associations or societies for different subjects. So you have Jami'at al-Fiqh, the teachers or the Dakatira or the doctors of Fiqh in all of the Saudi Arabian universities. They are associated with this Jami'at al-Fiqh. So if they want to make like, if you want to go from assistant professor to associate professor to professor, you have to publish some academic articles. And they usually have like a scientific journal that you can publish your
research
through and so on. So they have like, I think in Jami'at al-Imam they have Jami'at al-Sunnah in Hadith. You have in some you have Jami'at al-Qada, but in the Jamia Islamiyya they have Jami'at al-Aqeedah, but it's also like teachers from other universities that are connected to this Jam'iyya. So this Jam'iyya started an organization called Markaz Yaqeen, or Yaqeen Linaqd al-Had al-Dinin. Sheikh Saleh Sindi was responsible for that, about refuting atheism. So he spoke to me and he said, couldn't you write anything about atheism? And I was like, oh, atheism, reading about shubahat and so on. But at the same time, I came from a secular background. So I have been exposed to these kind of shubahat before. So I said, okay, maybe I'll give it a chance. and then I took that subject to write about that. And then I started to work with Markaz Yaqeen.
Title of the subject.
It's called ردود علماء الغرب الإلحاد المعاصر أرض ونقد. So it's a refutation of Western scholars of contemporary atheism, a presentation and critique.
So the refutations of, not even those Western scholars don't necessarily need to be Muslim, or they're not non-Muslim.
Usually not non-Muslim. Usually Christians. Some are Jews, but most of them are Christians.
They're refutations of atheism.
Yeah, atheism, and what we can benefit from these refutations, and what mistakes they have at the same time. So some, like they can refute some scientific theories that they have, like say like evolution theory and so on. They can mention some good things when it comes to that, because they are specialized in biology and chemistry and all these subjects. But at the same time, when they are refuting atheism in some ways, they usually bring up Christianity, or they have their, even Christianity, it's not only that they have problems when it comes to like Trinity and these things, they also have problems when it comes to Asma wa Sifat, because most of them are Mu'attila. They're denying the
names and attributes
the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because they are affected in the same way as the Mutakallimun. They're affected of Greek philosophy and so on.
Wow, so you're doing naqd, you're like critiquing not only atheism, but then the people who refuted them, you're critiquing them as you go along. Did you stick to one particular language?
English,
English. So the English scholars. Okay,
English-speaking scholars. Some of the books are translated from other languages, but usually it's in English.
Okay, mumtaz.
So the hadaf of the Bahath, really the objective, is to show people that, hey, it's not just, atheism is not just wrong from Islamic perspective. Even scientifically, the scientists don't even accept it.
That's one of the purposes and aims, and the other one is that many Muslims, especially in Muslim countries, if they hear that Professor John something said something about biology, and then a sheikh said something else, they say, okay, this is a sheikh, he shouldn't speak about this subject and so on. But this is a professor and Western and so on. So I wanted to show people here too that there are many Western scholars at the same time who are refuting atheism. Because they have what is called in Arabic, I don't know how to translate it, but hazima fikriya. It's called like,
I'm not sure how to translate that either.
It's
ideological, what you call
defeatism.
it? Defeatism or...
I think it's called defeatism,
Not superiority.
It's called
complex kind
inferiority.
Complex.
Gotcha.
They say, okay, there are Westerners and they have said this and this and that and so on. So you can show them that they also refute atheism. They have scholars refuting atheism, and some of the refutations that they got are quite good. So you can benefit from them, but at the same time, they have these mistakes. So, and I also, one of the reasons too that I saw many. When atheism started to spread in some Muslim countries, you can see some Muslims, they want to defend the Aqeedah in any way. Like someone is attacking you, you will take a stick, and you will take a rock, you will take anything just to throw it at him. This is what I saw. So they say, oh, someone is refuting atheism. Okay, I'll take this rudu too. And I saw some du'a speaking about these things, and they're taking, especially from like William Lane Craig and some of them, some of the Christian missionaries, they're taking their things and making, saying the same things that they are saying, philosophical wordings and terminology and so on. That was the same kind of mistakes that the Jahmiyyah and the Mu'tazila used to have when they started to negate the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Not filtering,
not filtering. Just say, oh, it's a good refutation, I'll take it. You use the same kind of terminology you speak about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which you call it alfadh mujmala, ambiguous words. And you say Allah is not like that. You use a word that has not been mentioned in the Quran and the Sunnah, and it can mean different things. So you say Allah is not this, Allah is not that, but has not been mentioned in the Quran and the Sunnah. And if you say that He is not like that,
you need proof.
You need proof, and at the same time, it might be that you negate some of His attributes.
Exactly.
Because they might mean something else.
So what was the most difficult thing that you ran into while doing your research?
Both of the research, both of the thesis, I had to translate. So translating from English to Arabic, to really understand it. But the second one was much harder because I went into quantum physics and cosmology and chemistry and psychology and sociology and
language,
all logic, philosophy,
yeah.
and then to really understand it, because usually I had to give in like a chapter each week. So now I have something about psychology. So reading about psychology this week, understand it really good, and then write it, and then maybe like a chapter can be 10, 15, 20 pages.
Wow.
And then leave it in, and then I have to correct the old
the old one. So subhanallah.
So it's,
was there anything like going through it where it was like, this is like kind of just too much?
Especially in the end, because we had I had to leave it in, and I was not finished with the whole bahth, so it was really stressy at the end. It was really much to write. And sometimes, you know quantum physics, scholars of quantum physics said the one who say to you that he understands quantum physics does not understand quantum physics. It's so hard to understand. And these are like Nobel Prize winners saying this. So I'm sitting there and I don't know quantum physics. Trying to understand quantum physics. So like listening to how people explain it in an easy way, and then reading other books and so on and going into it. And really to understand, I can't go into all of it, but to understand how atheists are trying to use these subjects to spread their atheism.
What would be your advice to those people who might be struggling, like on the border with going with atheism, especially the shabab? Like, what would be your advice as far as to stay away from it? What would you advise them?
I can say like this. Sometimes when people are speaking about why people are becoming atheists, they look at different shubahat that they have and so on. But usually what I've seen, because I've been working with Markaz Yaqeen now for 8 years, and I have made I've been sitting and speaking to people that have atheist shubahat for hundreds of times. Usually there are psychological factors behind it. So they say quantum physics, or they say evolutionary theory, but the problem is not there. Like we spoke about the inferiority complex. The problem is not what evolution theory says. The problem is that Westerners are saying it. If it will be someone else from a country that does not have like the things that the Westerners have, they would not have the problem. They're not really listening to the arguments. They have issues. They have issues. They have problems.
Shows the importance of quoting those people that against.
And also to really understand where is the problem. So when you speak to someone, to understand where is the problem, because if you let him speak about other things, you're not doing him a favor. You should take him back. What is the real problem? What problem do you really have? Many times you say, my father used to beat me when I was a kid, and when I was not praying and so on. I had problem with this and that. And most of them have these psychological things. And another thing that I think is really important is that we really contemplate of the Quran. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned the kuffar, and mentioned the people that left Islam, or did not accept Islam, that Allah Azza wa Jal mentions the reasons. بَلْ طَبَعَ اللَّهُ عَلَىٰ قُلُوبِهِمْ, that Allah Azza wa Jal closed their hearts. Why? They mention reasons for that in the Quran, in different ayahs. You can say like the verse. أسباب الضلال. يا أيها الذين آمنوا استجيبوا لله وللرسول إذا دعاكم لما يحييكم واعلموا أن الله يحول بين المرء وقلبه. Allah Azza wa Jal says, "O you who believe, answer the call of Allah Azza wa Jal and His Messenger when they call you, so He will give you life. Know that Allah Azza wa Jal can come between a person and his heart." So the scholar says the reason for that is that if a person does not make istijaba, does not answer the call of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Prophet, this can be one of the punishments that you will go astray. So
like Allah said, وَنُقَلِّبُ أَفِئِدَتَهُمْ وَأَبْصَارَهُمْ كَمَا لَمْ يُؤْمِنُوا بِهِ أَوَّلَ مَرَّةٍ.
And many verses about that.
Yeah, translate that, huh?
And Allah said that we will turn their hearts and their eyes just the way that they did not believe in it the first time. So because they rejected the truth, when Allah made it clear to them, because Allah says, سَنُرِيهِمْ آيَاتِنَا فِي الْآفَاقِ وَفِي أَنفُسِهِمْ حَتَّى يَتَبَيَّنَ لَهُمْ أَنَّهُ الْحَقُّ. Allah will clarify to everyone and give them their guidance. Allah will give everyone their guidance, but some people accept it, some will reject it. So those that rejected, Allah will close their hearts, because they initially فَلَمَّا زَاغُوا فَزَاغَ اللَّهُ قُلُوبَهُمْ. When they rejected the truth, Allah closed their hearts. So that's one of the asbab al-dalal.
And one of the biggest asbab that I have seen is arrogance. To be arrogant and to look down on others. كذلك يطبع الله على كل قلب متكبر جبار. Allah Azza wa Jalla mentioned about Fir'aun. That Allah Azza wa Jalla closed his heart. Why? Because he's mutakabbir, he's arrogant, and jabbar. He was like transgressing and oppressing others. So this is also, you can see like many atheists, especially their du'at and their callers and so on, they're usually arrogant. They look down on others.
Yes,
and
so
on. You can see the difference between when you're speaking to usually many Christians. Christians can be, like Allah Azza wa Jalla mentioned about them, وإذا سمعوا ما أنزل إلى الرسول ترى أعينهم تفيض من الدم مما عرفوا من الحق. When they hear the message from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you can see in their eyes that they start to cry. So many Christians, they can be more humble. I'm not speaking about everyone. Now you have the whole Western culture that you should be like believing yourself and so on, and they are affected of the whole capitalistic culture and so on. But Christians in the beginning, especially in the days of the Prophet ﷺ, they were much closer to Islam, and it was easier for them to accept because they used to be more humble than atheists and then some other religions and so on.
So generally speaking, what you're saying pretty much is talking about the asbab, right? Of how people fall into atheism. Now, what about somebody who is affected with the shubahat of the atheists themselves?
I think if they have that, they should look at themselves first of all. Why do you have
themselves.
this problem? Should reflect upon their own situation. It might be that they have been, they are arrogant. They're looking down on others. It might be that they have not made istijaba lillahi wa lirrasul. That Allah Azza wa Jalla called them to do things and say, no, I should not do it.
So just focus on themselves and stay in their lane. And their problem will go away. Like this.
It might be like that, but I think this is the first thing. You can see like the Salaf, how they used to always reflect on things that happened around them by reflecting upon their own condition. They used to say that if I saw something in my wife, some bad things that she did to me, I was thinking about my own sins. This is how they always reflected. Now, the problem with many people today, if they have a problem, they want to blame others.
Exactly.
They want to blame.
No accountability. No
accountability. You should look at yourself. Okay, now, especially if it's someone that comes to you and complains and says, I have shubahat. It's not the best thing that you ask him, okay, what are the shubahat? And I can answer, why do you have shubahat? What is the reason? I go into these web pages and I'm always looking at it. Okay, why? Why do you expose yourself?
You shouldn't.
You shouldn't.
Exactly.
That's why you gone wrong.
So really understanding these things, because like I said, I can see sometimes that the debates, you allow them to go away from things. You go out from the core subject. Like the most important thing is here. You allow them to speak about like issues that are really far away. That it's not.
It could even expose the listeners to more shubahat. That was my next question. What's your take, like generally speaking, like when it comes to these atheist debates? Because this is picking up big time these days, especially on YouTube and things like that.
I spoke about my risala about munadarat, debates. The scholars have mentioned that debates can be done with certain conditions, and one of the conditions is that you shouldn't expose everyone to look at them. You can go there to them to debate their things amongst them,
behind closed doors,
iqamat al-hujja and so on. But now you can see that you have an atheist. He will be allowed to speak for 15 minutes, and you should speak for 15 minutes, and then he speaks for 15 minutes, and you and sometimes I can understand that it's hard to refute every single thing that he mentions. But the atheists, especially they are making jokes, they're sarcastic and so on, and they can mention maybe in 15 minutes 10 shubahat. And if he wants to answer, he can also only answer 2 of them or 3 of them, because he really wants to answer them in a good way. Okay, now you have exposed Muslims for 10 shubahat that you did not answer. And this is a problem.
There's actually a rule regarding that. They call it the BS rule, but we'll call it falsehood, right? They say we'll use falsehood instead. They say that it's much easier to say falsehood tend to refute it.
Yeah.
So to just say falsehood is easy. You can make claims, you can lie, you can say whatever you like. But then to refute someone that spews falsehood, to refute it now, you need to look for evidences. It's much more difficult.
This is why Twitter is so dangerous, because in Twitter, you can only write a certain amount of characters. So he mentioned a shubha. Why is Islam doing this and this and this and that? He mentioned a lot of questions, and it's and then if you want to answer, mashallah, you have to have a thread with like
that nobody reads, by the way.
No one reads. So this is, and the same thing with like TikTok and Instagram. You make a short video. If you want to answer all the things, it's hard.
It's very difficult.
So I think these debates, I can understand why people do them. I can understand the whole takeoff. Okay, they are spraying the shubahat. You have to show them that you're stronger. And so I can understand the whole thing. But I think it's really dangerous.
And
definitely. Especially you have Muslims, especially many people, they watch the debates not for to that they had shubahat before and they want to get rid of them. They want action. You know, people like, it's a conflict, I can show, okay.
It's entertainment.
It's entertainment and so on. And then you get exposed to some shubahat, because some of them, these people, they have shubahat, and they can mention things about Islam, and then you go around and think about, really, he said something, and then this is
he can be more fasih in the way he delivers it, more eloquent in the way, and it just sticks to you.
So I think that what I'm trying to say is that if you are going to refute them, don't now, if you like, promote that on your own channels.
Expose it to the public.
Expose it to your audience. Maybe if he's going to put it on his video, that might be a benefit, because he's got 50,000 YouTube followers that probably you would never get to. So if he posts it on his channel, maybe...
Or even just better just to do it behind closed doors, generally.
I think so.
Not
I think
publicly.
so, because I've seen so many things. Even when you make debates, even if you're really good in debating, at that single moment, you might forget something.
Of course.
You don't really know how to answer it, and you have to keep this whole facade. You say, like, okay, you try to give some kind of answer and try to be convincing at the same time, but it's not a good answer. I saw some debates like
this week.
Your answer is not good.
It's a weak rebuttal.
It's a weak
rebuttal. If you make 10 good points and one very weak point, people are going to stick to that one weak point.
Of course.
That's what's going to stick with them. Unfortunately.
And it's quite interesting, especially when you see debates between a Muslim and a Christian. You can see that Christian is putting on his channel and the Muslim is putting on his channel. You see all of the Christians say, oh, you won the debate and you're not strong. And then all the Muslims like, so it seems like, I think it's very seldom that someone really, he's like a strong Christian, believing Christian, and he watches this debate between a Christian and Muslim, then he would change his mind because of that. Because he's like muta'assib.
I mean, if you're probably a strong Christian, you probably say anything, you'll attribute the deficiency to that person doing the debate. No, he didn't explain it good enough. So they actually they're not compelled to become Muslim anyway.
So there's so much prestige and everything, and it's like you said, it's like entertainment at the same time and so on. I think,
I think it's also connected to the concept of preserving the Ra'sul Mal. It's much more important than looking for a profit. Like your Ra'sul Mal is your audience. You got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,000 people who want the khair, that are following you. That takes more precedence than try and gain maybe 10 new Muslims or 20 new Muslims. So how would you expose them to something and put them...
Get a few people coming to maybe exposed to Islam, but you're losing 20 to 30 people to Shubahat. Or you're exposing your entire audience to Shubahat.
Who trusted you? That's an amana on your shoulder. And on the day of judgment, it's not our responsibility to guide everyone. But we are held responsible if we're a reason, out of recklessness, of people becoming misguided and exposed to shubhat.
There's something very interesting connected to atheism that I came across one of your videos earlier this morning. It was connected to suffering. And I didn't know this, that like one of suffering is a root cause with a lot of atheists. Like automatically they'll say like, why is Allah testing me with this? Or why is God testing me with this? Why did God wouldn't, kill my child if he was really real and things like that? Can you explain that a little bit more, like for the audience, like how them two are really in line?
I think one of the reasons why the problem of evil, the problem of suffering, they call it, is affecting people so much, because it's something that is close to people. Most people have suffered in their life in some way with the diseases, or they have someone around them that have suffered, or they see in television, they see people that suffer. When it comes to other atheist shubahat that they have, speaking about cosmology, what happened before, they're speaking about Big Bang and all these things, many people, it's like a non-issue for them.
Yeah.
Okay, you said 13.7 billion years ago. Yeah, but now someone is speaking and is saying suffering, and he said, yeah, my mother she's got cancer and so on. So this is something that is emotional, and it's close to you. It's close to your life.
Yeah.
And especially like you open television, you see people, you see kids suffering and so on. So this is something that can really affect people in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And I have like you said, I have a whole thing about it on Blogging Theology.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but is it relatively new, this issue, suffering?
No. People thinking about suffering is something that I think have been around since the beginning of mankind. People thinking about it, why they are suffering, trying to explain it in accordance to their worldview. Because the thing that I always mention is suffering and evil is not something that only the Muslim is thinking about. Even the atheist, even the Hindu, even everyone is thinking about suffering and trying to understand it in accordance to his worldview. And what I try to show in my thesis is that no one can answer this issue better than a Muslim.
Allah Akbar.
Yeah, because an atheist, okay, why is the world here at all? They can't even explain why the universe is here. And why is it something that is good and that is bad? Why are we more people healthy than sick? We could be, we can have like thousands of different diseases, but usually we don't have any disease. Why is the body working in the way that it is if there is no creator that created us with all this design and so on? So there are many issues that are really hard for the atheist to explain, but it's also harder for him to cope with suffering. You see someone who is an atheist and is about to die in cancer. He does not believe that he will get away with his sins will be forgiven. There is a paradise that Allah will reward him and so on. It's just everything is just useless. Everything is no purpose and so on.
Like a really pessimistic type of approach to life. Everything is just against me type of thing.
There's a very interesting book written by a Jew who was a psychologist. His name is Viktor Frankl. He wrote a book called the purpose of a purpose of life or something like that. He got a theory in psychology called logotherapy. He said that the most important way to cope with distress in life is through finding meaning in the distress, finding a meaning in life. If you don't have a meaning with life, this is when a problem get hard. He was in Auschwitz and he got out and he wrote his book about these things, and he saw that the people that could cope with life in the concentration camps and so on were the ones that had a meaning with their lives. If you're an atheist, you don't have an objective meaning with life. There's nothing bigger, there's nothing transcendent with your life. So finding meaning in your specific suffering right now, a Muslim can say, okay, there's a broader meaning in life. I'm here in this world, it's in this dunya, it's a test, it's an ikhtibar from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and if I cope with that test, I will come to paradise forever and ever. Now I have a disease. Allah Azza wa Jalla will forgive me for my sins. He will take me up in darajat, in levels. So you can see, even when some of these sufferings come to you, you can even take it and you see like, alhamdulillah, this is something good for me. This will take me closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What can the atheist say?
Exactly.
What can he say? There's no akhirah, there's no afterlife, it's nothing there. There's no point at all. I spoke to an old atheist one time, he said, there's nothing cool to be old. I'm growing old, there's nothing cool with that. It's like everything is like, things are just getting worse and worse. But as a Muslim, you're like, hadith about Shaybat al-Muslim, you get gray hair, and it's like everything you can see a purpose and a meaning with the whole life, and with every specific thing that happened with you in your life. You can even reflect about things, okay, this happened to me. I can take, I mentioned it before when I was in a podcast. I was a new Muslim and I went to the mosque and I had my jacket and I put my phone in my jacket. I put it in a place. It was in the winter, and then I prayed. I came back and someone stole my phone. And I was a new Muslim. I was in the mosque. I was like, wow. What is this? Like, I come to a mosque. It's a holy place, and people are stealing my phone. I could not see any hikmah with that. But I used to have all of the numbers to my old friends there, all of my Jahiliyyah friends there, and they were living far away from me in another area. So I was like, okay, I don't call them now. I got new friends, new Muslim friends. So when I saw that in the beginning, it was like someone stole my phone. Then after that was a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And these are a lot of things in our lives. We can only see the wisdom like maybe years after.
Sahih. Allah Akbar.
I think that when you mentioned the suffering thing, I think it's related to something you mentioned earlier as well, which is the lack of self-reflection. So in a way that when the atheist is like, why am I suffering? Why is this happening to me? Question is, okay, so if you're thinking to yourself, why is God doing this to me? Have you asked yourself, when you are living in blessings, why Allah has blessed you? You never asked yourself that question.
Exactly.
It's like, why am I suffering? Okay, why were you blessed? You know, so why is it the only people that have this, you mentioned, it's a psychological thing, which is just thinking about yourself, always being the victim, always blaming something else, no blame yourself. You have to ask yourself, I'm suffering now. Why am I suffering? I must have done something wrong. Because before I had blessings. Okay, and I never asked questions then. Why am I asking questions now? You have to look back to yourself. I think that's related to something you mentioned earlier, which is a lack of self-reflection. Really.
Now Muslims, mashallah, we have a nice approach to dealing with it, like you already mentioned, you know, accepting the qadar and things like this. When your research, what did you find that the atheists, how do they really deal with these type of questions as far as suffering or hardships? And
like he mentioned, they don't reflect upon their own worldview. They only want to attack others.
So automatically they just start attacking.
They start attacking others, and so your worldview, you have problems with that. The hardest thing for an atheist is that you question their worldview, because atheism came as a reaction against Christianity in Europe. So they are always the critics, and they're always the one attacking. They are not used of getting questioned of their Aqeedah, of their worldview, and how can you explain everything? How can you explain the whole universe that is here? How can you explain our thoughts that we can have? How can something how can life come about? All these things, all the questions you can ask them, they're not used to that. They are used of criticizing, being sarcastic, and so on.
Negating,
negating.
The whole ideology is to negate something, but not establishing anything. Just to negate and be like, that's not true, but okay, what do you have in...
I saw like a meme or like a picture that they made of some atheist that went to a house of someone with a blank paper and said, this is what we call you to. You know, the Christians, they come in with a whole pamphlet and so on. So this is, okay, what you call it to? It's like, nothing. We're only attacking, you know.
Subhanallah. So, Jazakallah Khair, what books would you recommend, like, on this topic, as far as people who might be dealing with it, or even want to get more knowledge on atheism, generally speaking? I think I asked you this question earlier, right? But I wanted to ask it again.
The thing is, like, when I started to work in Markaz Yaqeen inside of the Jamia, there were very few books in Arabic. There are some books, but usually the books were not good. Then in the last 5, 6, 7 years, there are many books, many books in Arabic, refuting atheism, refuting these different ideologies. There are many books by Christians refuting atheism. These are the sources that I went back to in my essay. But I haven't found like really good books written by Muslims refuting atheism from a point of view of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah.
Gotcha.
I think it's a big shame that Muslims, like, atheism has been around in Europe for 250 years. Muslims are now active in making dawah and so on. You can see things on YouTube, you can see things and so on. But good books that really refute it, not only from an ideological point of view, but also from a theological point of view, like really establishing the hujaj, the arguments and so on. I haven't seen it.
SubhanAllah. Is it possible that Yaqeen in Madinah, the Jam'iyyah, is it possible they can open like an English type of department and
Yeah,
work. I mean, because they gave you,
that,
your master's status is in translating.
Yeah.
You know, maybe bring some people in who can help translate.
Yeah.
Akhi, that'll be some good work for some students.
Definitely, yeah.
Inshaa Allāh.
You know?
I wanted to ask you, Akhi, about a website I came across, maybe that you know, called Discovery. So this particular website, it's by scientists or people that ascribe themselves to scientists, not Muslims, right? But they just want to refute atheism. They want to establish what they call intelligent design through science. Are you familiar with that website?
Yeah, Discovery Institute, yeah.
And they've got a lot of different materials as well. Did you review any of them? Would you advise anyone to benefit from any of their material?
The intelligent design movement is, they have some really deep books, especially William Dembski. He got some deep books, and Jonathan Wells and some of them. They have good books when it comes to refuting evolution theory and mentioning some issues returning to design, the design argument. But at the same time, they are trying to make it as a purely scientific theory. So they say the only thing that we can say that there has to be an intelligent designer. We don't say who this designer is, his attributes and so on. We say that science point at an intelligent designer. And you can see many of them that believes in or promotes intelligent design, like Michael Behe. At the same time, he's accepting most of the things in evolution theory. But he said that there has to be an intelligent designer behind. There are some things in that evolution can explain. So this is where we say that there has to be an intelligent designer. So they are accepting a lot of the things in evolution theory and Darwinian theory, but like he had got another book, it's called The Edge of Evolution. So it's like there are some edges that they can't explain. They can explain a lot of things, but not everything. So some of them are quite strong when it comes to refuting. You can benefit from some things, but at the same time they have these issues. And they have the other, like madhab, the other school of thought amongst the Christians called creationism, and that's problematic too, because they are basing their science on the Bible, especially the creation account and the Genesis and so on. And
how long ago things were created.
They say the world is like, it has to be exactly 6,000 years old, and it has to be like this, and it has to be like that. And there are many scientific mistakes in the Bible. So if you say that we have to make this as the asal, we have to go through from it. At the same time, there are many mistakes in it. So
not to make as an asal. I mean, for example, as all of us, I can speak for myself as a youth that grew up in the West, in Holland, done biology and these sort of things for GCSE and A levels. There's no doubt that evolution theory is batil, but there might be many youth out there that are a little bit affected by it. Like maybe that is how we came about. So from that that angle, do you think one can, or specifically the Tullab, they can take some of those arguments? Because I'll give you an example. There's a few things that were bothering me for a long time when it comes to evolution theory that, alhamdulillah, for me was a cause to absolutely not believe in it throughout my life. For example, something to do when they say survival of the fittest, whatever. I don't go into details, but when I came across this website, I found that these objections that I had, they're actually concepts that other scientists are using to refute, because they want to give you the impression in the West that evolution theory is the default, when in essence there's a whole movement of scientists who are not even Muslim, who are like, this is batil, this is falsehood.
So there's a web page called Revolution Against Evolution with 3,000 scholars, all that have PhD. They're refuting evolution.
So a lot of Muslims,
and you can see what they are saying. They're using what is called the majority argument. The majority, but what do you say to people? The scientific consensus. Consensus. What does consensus mean? It's like everyone is on the train. If you have 3,000 PhD guys not on the train, it's not a consensus. So they're using these kind of words, and usually I think most people, they don't really. Most Westerners also haven't really read the arguments for and against evolution. If they learn about evolution, that this is something that is true, and they have learned about some arguments for evolution, but the critics, I think 99.9% doesn't really
Wow.
Which itself is a whole, it's a big bab that not just, let non-Muslims aside, a lot of the Muslims should actually know this, that hey, I know they've taught you this at school, but it's not true. This is not scientific fact. It's not accepted. They say evolution is backed by science. It's not backed by science. So even before we go to a religious point of view, because for a Muslim that is da'if, who hasn't really, you know, I mean, learned his religion, like you mentioned with the inferiority complex, you know, for him to just realize that, hey, يعني شهد شاهد من أهلي, I think it's a big thing.
It's a big thing. And also, we really have to understand, if you accept evolution theory, what it really means. It means that human beings are just an animal like the rest of the animals. It means like when you die, it's like when an ant or any other animal dies, there's nothing left after that. There's nothing going to happen. There's no afterlife and so on. And you don't have also any really moral objective criterion. Because like, can you say that a lion, when he's killing a gazelle or anything else, that he is evil? No, it's not evil. He's just working. He's just an animal. And if we are just animals, what does it mean?
Exactly.
That means I can kill you, fellow human being, to just fill my belly or to have more money, sah?
And these are not just theoretical questions that I'm mentioning here. This is actually what they based and how it affected society in many, many ways. It affected, like, when it comes to colonization, how they looked at other people. They say, oh, Europeans are more developed and we are like this, and we have the right to colonize other countries. Animals.
Survival of the fittest, they call it.
Survival of the fittest. We have the right to do these things. And social Darwinism, even though today they're not speaking about, but in the 20s and in the late 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century, it was really, really influential. We had in Sweden what's called Race Biological Center in Sweden. Even the Nazis, they came to Sweden to learn from the Swedes when it comes to that. And that was on to in the 50s, like in Sweden. They was studying people based on races, and it was really like racist theories backed in evolution theory. And today you can still see that even if they don't use the same kind of words, they still have the kind of cultural racism, how they look on other people, how they look at other cultures, how they look on the Muslims, and so on. In them. Yeah, that they see that they are more developed than others, and so on. And all of these things go back to evolution theory. So there are many implications when it comes to evolution.
Was any of this mentioned in your PhD? Like dealing with these type of issues as well?
Yeah.
MashaAllah.
And it's very interesting to, when you analyze society, you analyze things, how they are, and how it affect people. In the end, if you see yourself as you're only an animal, what's the purpose of life? You don't have anything.
Okay, this book has to be translated. also your Risala as well in Magister. I mean, because it's an English translation, so I mean, tafsir has to be translated, inshallah. Maybe you'll be working on that next, or.
Sure. I mean, if you still have all of the, if you have all of the research, it's in English mostly, right?
Yeah.
So you took the English, translated to Arabic.
Yeah, but he wrote his research though all in Arabic. Yeah. So it's from different hundreds of books.
I have to make it shorter, compiled version or something.
Yeah, bridge version. So.
Allah aid you, akhi.
Allah, I mean. So, Tayyib, finally, you're, mashallah, tabarakallah, you're one of the only people to be teaching in Masjid An-Nabawi in the English language specifically. Tell us about that experience.
Well, alhamdulillah, it was a long process because there's like an agreement between the Islamic University and the Riyasat al-Haramain that are responsible for the Masjid in Mecca and Medina.
The lessons in Medina.
The lessons in Mecca and Medina. When Sheikh Sudais became responsible, he said that he wanted durus in different languages too. So they started to bring students, and they had an ittifaqiyya with the Jami'ah Islamiyya that they would bring students in different languages that would teach in like in Indonesian and Hausa and different languages.
Okay.
And then they have one from each language. So first it was another brother in English, and then it became me. And they had someone in Indonesian and so on. So they have like
I've seen people speaking like Urdu lessons and things like that. I've never seen about no other language though being used.
Yeah.
So okay. So
they contacted the Jamia and they said, we want someone teaching in English. So the Jamia contacted Kulliyat Dawah, and I was working there. So they say, and it was like a process for years before the acceptance.
Wow.
And I remember I was in Sweden, and I got a message from someone, and he said, "Can you come to our office in Masjid An-Nabawi?" I said, "Who is this?" So I'm working. I want to meet you. I'll come there next week. I said, "Come to me straight away." So I sat there and said, "Inshallah, we'll have to make an interview, and then you can start to teach, inshallah." So I went with an interview with the boss and the wakil.
MashaAllah.
And then they said, "Khalas."
So that process,
next week start.
Allahu Akbar. So that process, it took years, huh?
Before the acceptance.
So what they was going through, like making sure you was upon the right
Aqeedah. It's a very, very sensitive place to teach. People are coming from all. Yes, it's masjid, and people are coming from all around the world. And alhamdulillah, I can say that they don't control you in any way, say you should do this and you should do that. I can take any book that I want. I start a new book, I teach it. I taught 10 different books there. And I didn't say anything to anyone. I was just teaching. So they really have to trust you, because if someone is teaching different books and so on, and all of the lessons are recorded and so on. So
that's why it takes that years to make sure that you're actually worthy of it.
They can really trust you. Not like only in a political sense or in a theological. You really have to know how to answer, because people can ask you questions.
It's
a manner. You don't take water over your head and start to make fatwa and different things and so on. So
where can people find your lessons that you did in Haram? Is it on YouTube or?
No, it's in the. You have to go there. They have the lessons.
You don't have it recorded. Look into
some brother. He started to record some lessons. I don't know where they went after. But all of them are recorded.
MashaAllah. If you find them, send it to us. We can put it in the description in the video. Inshallah. Allah yafadakum. You have anything else that you want to?
Yeah. So any other? Do you have any other da'wah activities? How's the da'wah in Sweden, akhi? I mean, shout out to our brothers and sisters, brothers in particular, but any Swedish brother that I normally have come across, they're the most chill people I've seen.
I have to say the same. Wallahi.
Compared to us from the UK or America, they're just chill.
I was telling you earlier, Sheikh Abdullah, even the first time I met you, I think it was 2012, I was hanging out with only Swedish students. They were just the most chillest. They didn't get involved in much. They were also very studious.
Yeah.
I'm like, mashallah, I'm chilling with these guys.
Alhamdulillah. One of the first guys that told me was from Sweden as well.
Mashallah.
So how's the da'wah there?
Alhamdulillah, it's good. Like when it comes to these things, like I say, people are calm. We don't have much problems and so on. First of all, it's tawfiq from Allah. It's a blessing from Allah. But then after that, it's a lot of hard work from the brothers to try to keep people together and try to have conversations with people. It's like maybe hundreds of hours of conversations, sitting down with people, having istirahas, sit down just to get connection. And I think it's very important if someone feels something and he get a new understanding of something or so on, that you really try to sit down and speak about these things and so on, so people don't go around with things in the chest and then after that they will explode and there's new fitna and everybody's
we need to take notes.
Hey, wallahi, I seen this firsthand with the Swedish students. I used to hang out with them and I used to see them spend time with brothers, and they were so like, they had lean, they were very easygoing, very gentle with them, like, and they really cared.
I think that's where it comes down to, like you mentioned, ad-deen nasiha. It's about wanting good for your Muslim brother. I think that's where it really comes down to. If you want good for everyone else and they see that you want good for them, I think people will be all ears. But if it's all about not really wanting good for them, just good for yourself, or it's more about it turns into either you're with me or against me, then that turns into, like the Sheikh mentioned, into something that explodes.
Another thing I've seen it with the Swedish, correct me if I'm wrong, what I've seen is they didn't blow things up. Like, for example, it might, like for me, from the West, I think we get like this, when we hear something like, he said what? It just becomes like, what? No, I'm not going around. But the Swedish brothers, they were like,
oh, is that so?
All right, let me talk to him. And then it's just like, how's that thing going? Oh yeah, I'm still talking to him. It's like, goes on like that for some time, and you're like,
because it's much more complicated when you have a problem with someone. If I would speak to you and you and you and you, and now we have 5 persons involved, and then you start a YouTube channel and you get 100,000 people involved, and then you could just solve the thing with speaking to that guy. But now, mashallah, you involve the whole world, and you have your own fans, and they're saying like you can't solve problems in that way. We have like a Aqeedah that we say, there are many problems that you can solve over a cup of tea.
Allahu Akbar.
Solve the problems. Invite him to your house, sit down, drink a cup of tea, and try to solve the problem.
Allahu Akbar.
But I can say that I can't recommend to solve the problems through YouTube.
I think we can all agree to that. We can all agree.
Online reputations on YouTube and
Subhanallah.
bringing your own. It's very, very. We're laughing, but it's very sad.
It's very sad. For
This
sure.
is how it is.
So something we can learn from. I think there's substance what you said earlier at the beginning, that the Swedes, they see themselves as an example that everybody else needs to look up to.
It's something to carry on, huh?
Especially for us.
And you have
for
the people from
Salafi.
Britain, they are more that want to colonize other countries, want to go out with their thing. And the Americans want to conquer the world.
Come on, man, you're embarrassing me. Nah, Jazakallah
We're all
khair.
affected of
So I gotta get that jahiliyyah out of us, huh?
Allah stop.
Barakallah. Tayyib, final advices, inshallah, moving forward for students or people trying to go upon that same route that you went, or any advice that you have for the people, especially, because, mashallah, you've reached these levels, Allahumma barak by the tawfiq of Allah ta'ala, but then by your hard work and time and putting in efforts, what would you advise a new student who's trying to do the same thing? They have family, because you did this with family, right, the entire time. How would you advise them, or do you have anything else connected to the topics we talked about?
The first thing that is always the most important thing is to be sincere to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that you do everything with sincerity. Always to be close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with dua and reading the Quran. The reading the speech of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and also to make a lot of dua, always asking Allah azza wa jal for tawfiq. Never think that you can do anything by yourself. This is like the most basic thing that we have to do. Another thing that's like kind of a dunya nasiha, but at the same time it's connected to deen, is that you have clear goals in your life that you write down. You usually mention the SMART goals. I don't know if you know them. They should be specific and it should be measurable.
Yeah.
And I used to apply this, and I think it's really, really good.
I agree.
You should have, like, you come to the Jamia, or you want to be a talib al-ilm in another country or in your own country, anything, you should have specific goals that you want to accomplish. And they should be measurable. It should be something, not just I want to gain knowledge. Okay, what does it mean? You should learn so and so much from the Arabic language. You should memorize so many words. You should memorize so much from the Quran. You should read these and these books. You should study this and this books with the scholars and so on. This is something that is measurable. And something that is also accepted, in the acronym, it's something that is accepted. You feel that this is something that will really benefit you. You can feel that you can see the difference between when you're studying something or reading a book. When you are interested, you have motivation, and when you're not interested. If you read something, you have to study a subject, or you have to read a book in school or anyone other place, you don't really understand why I'm reading this book. Even some subjects in the Jamia, sometimes you're sitting there like, why am I studying this? You can see the difference when you study like Asma wa Sifat. You understand the importance in your life to know about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is something that is accepted to you. So to have like your own inner motivation when you study things is one of the most important things. And then that is something that is reachable, something that you can reach. You don't take like water over your head. You say, I'll memorize the whole Quran in 1 month, and you heard some scholar from the Salaf did it, and no, something that you can really do. And all people have like different situations in life. People have families, people don't have families, people have many kids, not many kids. People have different situations. So something that is reachable, and then something that is time bound. So you can say like, okay, I will finish this. Not that I will memorize the Quran in the future. No, you say I will memorize this juz after 1 month and after 2 months and so on. And you go after that and you write down the goals and you try to see if you reach them or not. Every day when I start the day, I have a daily schedule with things that I have to do. So in the end, I don't want to go to sleep at night before I finished all of the things that I have to do. And then I start one more time and one more time. Because if you don't write them down, it will be in your head. then you start to make like wilat for yourself. Yeah, I think I studied today and so on. You did not do in accordance to this in the schedule.
Checklist.
The checklist. And this is really, really important. Sometimes you can think, nah, this is just childish. No, it's not childish.
What was that acronym?
They're really smart.
Smart.
Yeah, specific, measurable, accepted, reachable, and time bound.
The funny thing is that the version of smart that I've learned, it's the same.
Yeah.
But A, we say attainable, and R, we say relevant.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing.
Relevant,
so relevant is acceptable, and attainable is it's the same, but the same, mashallah.
Jazakallah khair.
And they say you're right, when it comes to writing down, that is really, really important. One of the productivity experts says that your brain is great for having ideas, but not for storing them. Have your idea, but then write it down. If it's written down, it's something that, it won't take up your brain power throughout the day and give you a sense of stress because it's black and
it kind of made it kind of like, it makes it serious. Like when you take that idea and you actually write it and look at it. I've seen people say this. I think it was a book called Atomic Habits or something like that. It deals with this. It becomes real. Like you see it. Like I need to do this. And then like you said, put them stipulations where I can't go to sleep unless I do this thing right here.
Inshallah.
And there's another thing that I think is really important too, is to know the fitna of this. To really understand it. Because when it comes to, you say, I want to be a good talib ilm, and at the same time I have family, so I should give my family less time. I should not be with them. I should not raise my kids to make more talib ilm. This is the wrong way to think. You should take less of this, more to your family, and more to your talib al-ilm.
100%.
You have to understand what you have to take away from your life. And now there are like apps. You can download apps. You can see how many hours you're spending in each week. And you can try to gain new goals so you spend less times and so on when it comes to this. And try to be smart. Like you use your phone in times when you don't study at the same time. And they say even some rules that your phone should be at least 20 seconds away from you. It has to take you 20 seconds to go and see your phone. Because if you have it, they have made studies, psychological studies, that even if you only have your phone in your pocket, it will affect your study results. Even if you don't take it up. Because you're thinking about it at the same time. So you're not getting as much concentrated in that. And like the people that have made the programs and Facebook and Twitter and all these things, they have psychologists working with them how to affect you and to get like dopamine and so on.
And they spend millions, maybe billions to figure out how to get that extra dollar.
How to they spend all of that money. Their metric that they measure is what they call engagement, which is how long do you spend on Facebook. Facebook, the money that Facebook makes depends on how much time you spend on their platform. It's directly connected because they're advertising agencies.
So of course.
You spend 20 minutes on Facebook, they'll get X amount of money. You spend 2 hours. So for them, it's really, they hire these people, all the billions they have to just keep you on your phone. So you have to use technology against technology. Regarding the app that you've mentioned,
there are many apps.
I've got one particular one where you can put a schedule. You can actually put a particular schedule, like from this time to this time, these apps should be blocked. And you can put a password on it.
I've seen some people using those.
For me, it makes a major difference.
And they make the password like something they give to their wife or something, right?
Yes.
So you yourself can't get into it.
Exactly. For me, it makes a major difference. Block them salawat time, block them early morning. You block whenever these apps, and they're not all many of them. You choose the apps and you block them at specific times. And mashallah, it's beautiful. Really good.
You can subhanAllah, even when it comes to ibadah, not just only talib al-ilm, you can see the difference when you put your phone in your house and you go to salah, and after you finish, sitting with dhikr, sitting there reflecting, and you come into Allahu Akbar, and then it's coming up there. It's fitness, subhanAllah, because there are actually things happening inside of our brains. And it's like narcotics. It's like drugs. It's the same kind of effect. How it affects our brains. That we want the dopamine kick come into our brain.
Exactly.
So we want the like or want the message and so on and
FOMO.
Sahih.
Yeah.
Sahih, 100%. Jazakallah khair, akhi. It's been wallahi, it's been an honor to have you. It's subhanAllah, I think we tried to get you like last month or something like that. And this, like for the viewers and listeners, I told them like last week, and I was telling you earlier today, I decided that khalas magister, yani. When I get time to do podcasts, we'll do podcasts.
Inshallah.
But then when you messaged me and told me you're coming, I'm like, khalas, I gotta make some time. Gotta make some time, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair.
Wallahi, it's been an honor, akhi. Allah yafadakum.
Very nice to be here.
We appreciate you accepting our invitation. Jazakallah khair. Allah yafadakum. Wa assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.